Welcome to the News9 Plus Show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. Here are the top 9 headlines today. Months before America goes to vote, Republicans have formally initiated an impeachment inquiry against President Joe Biden. His predecessor, Donald Trump, was twice impeached during his time in the White House. The vote comes soon after Biden's son, Hunter Biden, was indicted on multiple counts of tax evasion. In West Asia, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said Israel would not give in to international pressure and that the military will continue until the end, until victory, until destruction of Hamas. Iran's Defense Minister Mohammad Reza Ashtiani has warned that a proposed US-backed multinational task force to protect shipping in the Red Sea would face extraordinary problems. Yemen's Houthis, aligned with Iran, have waded into the Israel-Hamas conflict by attacking vessels and firing missiles at Israel, more than 1,000 miles north of their capital, Sana'a. At least 9 Israeli soldiers were killed in an ambush, marking one of the deadliest standalone attacks that Palestinian militants have carried out since the ground invasion of Gaza began. In Latin America, Argentina's government has announced it will slash the value of the peso by more than 50% against the US dollar. The measure is part of President Javier Milei's radical solutions to fix the country's economy. Closer home, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met top ministers to discuss the massive security breach in Parliament on the 13th of December. 4 persons arrested in connection with the security breach have been charged under anti-terror UAPA law. Soon after taking oath, Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Mohan Yadav has banned the unregulated use of loudspeakers at religious and public places. He has also banned the sale of meat in the open. Union Minister of State for Electronics and Information Technology Rajiv Chandrasekhar underlined the need to regulate artificial intelligence. He was speaking on the sidelines of the Global Partnership for Artificial Intelligence Summit. Chennai's oil spill has gone at least 20 kilometers into the sea, creating an environmental scare around the Enmore Creek. Last week, inadequate stormwater management led to the overflowing of oil mixed with water in the aftermath of floods triggered by Cyclone Michong. Genos is the Latin word for tribe, and side is a Latin word that refers to killing. When these two words are combined, they become genocide, the act of killing an entire tribe or community. The most horrific genocide of all time is the Nazi extermination of the Jewish people during the Second World War. The Nazis shot and gassed over 6 million Jews. It is a crime unparalleled in human history. And 52 years ago, the Pakistan army killed over 1 million Bangladeshis during Operation Searchlight. It was a horrific 9-month-long orgy of violence inside erstwhile East Pakistan. And it was meant to break the will of the Bengali people. But yet, over half a century later, the United Nations is yet to declare this Bangladeshi genocide a genocide. And today I'm delighted to welcome to the News9 Plus Show a veteran of the Bangladesh war, Brigadier Basant Kumar Ponwar. And joining me is veteran journalist Saleem Samad from Dhaka. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus Show. And I'm of course joined here by my colleague Deepak Badana. Brigadier Ponwar, to start, you were part of the Indian Army Liberation Forces that entered Dhaka in December 1971. Describe for us what you saw then and how it shook you as a young lieutenant in the Indian Army.
I had just finished the mountain warfare course in Sonamarg in the first week of October. And we got to know that war clouds are just around the corner. We have to report to our unit. And by that time, my unit has concentrated around Tura, the Meghalaya eastern border, western border. And we are preparing ourselves for a likely operation which is to take place very shortly. We were training in the battlefield, on the border, along with the Mukti Bahini forces who had been trained, And the Mukti Bahini boys were so determined to liberate their nation. Because in the month of March, on 25th of March, when their prospective Prime Minister, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, his party came to power, and his party was to come to power in both East and West Pakistan, which was not acceptable to the West Pakistanis. They said they destroy these people. How can they ever hope to rule from Lahore and from various other places in Pakistan? They were subjected to such atrocities of throwing away their houses, killing their people, young people, and just killing for the sake of it. And these were the stories we got to know. Mukti Bahini was determined to liberate their nation. They said, we will go along, we'll give you complete help. And that's how we, together as a buddy teams, we started our work, we started our objectives, we started our planning. And then came the sudden surprise that on 3rd of December 1971, that the Pakistani Air Force launched an airstrike on our airfields in the western sector. The tide was set, everything was ready, and all we had to do was go across the border. That's the time instructions came in that we have to liberate Bangladesh. And off we went. Along with Mukti Bahini was a tremendous buddy team, warriors who showed us where the Pakistanis are concentrated, where the crossing places in the rivers. Over 10 million refugees had come across into Bangladesh, into West Bengal and Tripura, and this side into Assam, and all places there were refugee camps. We used to go and give them some help and whatever things was required for them to do for their day-to-day living. But they had to go back. They had to go back where there is safety. There is safety, and they can live a normal life like normal citizens.
Right. Brigadier Ponwar, you entered Jamalpur. Which was the first Pakistan Army defended city that you entered? Was it Jamalpur?
As we entered, the first defended city was Bakshiganj.
Right.
Kamalpur we bypassed on 3rd, 4th December, and Kamalpur fellow surrendered. He was a good fighter. We had launched several attacks on him, the battalion attacks on the Kamalpur BOP, but they fought well. But as soon as they were bypassed from all, there was no barbed wire or no defenses along the border. We could cross from anywhere, just boundary pillars saying India and Pakistan. So we crossed from there, and then we decided that we'll surround Bakshiganj and reduce Bakshiganj. Bakshiganj had about 150 odd Pakistanis and Razakars. However, as I just mentioned, the Major Ayub, their company commander, got killed in a pre-artillery battle. As such, with no leader, the entire company was asked to fall back to Jamalpur, which was another 20 kilometers away. So in Jamalpur, on the night of 9th, 10th December and 10th, 11th December, there were almost 1,500 Pakistanis, Razakars, and all villagers had left the town. Only their battalion commander, Colonel Sultan Ahmed, was there to hold the town of Jamalpur. But then what happened? In the eastern and western sectors, by 10th, 11th December, larger forces were closing in onto Dhaka. The 7th Fleet was also coming in from the Bay of Bengal side. So we were in a hurry. We got instructions that we have to reach Dhaka soonest. We have to liberate the nation soonest. And we were in the north. And we were in a place where we could go straight to Dhaka without any obstacles after we have crossed the Brahmaputra.
Did you witness these instances of genocide, the ethnic cleansing that the Pakistani military had done firsthand? Describe for us what you saw.
Yeah, I saw a lot of villages evacuated, villages burned down, villages, dead bodies lying around in a number of places as we were approaching. And then when we reached Jamalpur, because we were first concentrating on the military part of it to reduce the Pakistani threat. In the first 48 hours, in any case, the airstrikes by our Indian Air Force had done them good, and they could no more fly their aircrafts, and all their aircrafts were grounded. So there was no enemy air. We could walk around in the daytime anywhere, and there was just no problem.
Yeah, Brigadier Ponwar, I'm just going to go to Saleem Samad, who's listening very patiently, for his views on the 16th of December. Mr. Samad, 16th December is a momentous day for both India and Bangladesh. It's Vijay Diwas, it's Liberation Day, it's the creation of Bangladesh. And as we were discussing earlier, it's been 75 years since the UN Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of Genocide. Now, the end of the Liberation War, the creation of Bangladesh, and half a century later, it's still to be declared a genocide. You know, the kind of horrific war crimes that Brigadier Ponwar has witnessed firsthand. How does this impact Bangladesh today? Is it still a huge discussion point? The fact that over 1 million of your citizens were killed, and even half a century later, it's still not being recognized as a genocide.
Thank you. First of all, yes, it is true that this is still being discussed. Media often reports, and the talk shows they discuss. But unfortunately, the international organizations like the United Nations have not recognized Bangladesh genocide as a war crime. So that is another major hurdle that has to be overcome. Secondly, that for example, like the Armenian genocide, you must understand.
Yes,
that
almost 100 years ago.
Yes, almost 100 years. So
Yeah.
it may take another 100 years to get the attention of the international bodies.
Right.
So it is not only the United Nations, but of course the United Nations, even the Security Council, most of the Security
Yes.
Council members in the 1971 war had opposed Bangladesh independence. They literally supported Pakistan.
Yes.
So obviously, if you talk about China, you talk about any other countries, that is a major hurdle for getting the three things, the issue of genocide, to the international body.
Right.
Even if you are not talking about the international body, European Union has started discussion. The European Parliament has recently started discussion.
Yes.
They have held a seminar within themselves and did a probe. A probe committee came to Bangladesh only recently. So things have started rolling. I will not blame that everybody is not recognizing. Yes, everybody knows. If I talk about the United States, you talk about Canada, you talk any West countries, they are aware of the genocide. And of course, the media in that country, of course, there is the issue that why Bangladesh genocide has not been recognized. It is not only one word called genocide. So there was a 500,000 women were victims of rape as
That's
a weapon
correct.
of war.
It's one of the largest such instances post the Second World War.
Secondly, yes, it has already been mentioned that the world's largest war has been created in 1971.
Yes.
World's largest since the Second World War.
Right.
And that has, India was, of course, had given shelter
Yes.
to this 110 million people. Otherwise, I don't know, they would have also perished.
Right.
And are now new researches recently that on the way to the border, with the refugees who are living back to their home and to reach one of the nearest border, there were several incidents. At least we have found 60 sites where genocide was committed.
Yes.
Because it was easily understood that they were crossing the border. Obviously, there is no question asked. They were just slaughtered. So that's one of the reasons Bangladesh has, for the first time, possibly in South Asia, I am not sure about other countries, have a genocide museum which is formally going to be, has already started.
Yes.
Soft plots, but it's going to be, they have now a building in Khulna where most of the genocide had occurred.
Yes, in fact, Mr. Samad, I was just speaking with my colleague Deepak here a little while ago about how the Indian Army actually performed two major rescue missions in 1971. First is to rescue the Bangladeshi people from the Pakistan military, and then later rescue the Pakistan military from the Bangladeshi people. You know, after 16th of December, Brigadier Ponwar, was that the right thing to do in your mind? After 50 years, do you think that not bringing the Pakistan army to trial for all the crimes that they had done in 1971, you know, to formally hold a war crime tribunal in 1971 itself, the fact that India could have done that, but we chose not to do that, was that a mistake, you think, in hindsight?
Well, a serious punishment has to be given to a serious crime. And this genocide was a very serious crime. I mean, we were there, we were watching the refugees telling us the stories as to how the West Pakistanis were told to go and eradicate. They killed all the university professors
Right.
and all those intelligent people.
Just hold your thoughts. We'll come back to you after a very quick break.
He thought he could outlast us. And 1 year later, the evidence is right here in this room.
Who will blink first?
So far from preventing the expansion of NATO, Russian actions have actually resulted in the expansion of NATO.
It's a mess for Russia and it's a mess for the Western world, for NATO and the United States.
Putin is a dictator, and if he loses, that means the end of his regime, and probably of him personally. So he has to keep going.
Year 2. No end in sight. Streaming now.
Yes, the scale of the attack surprised us.
When you get a series of alerts, 16 intelligence alerts, if Maharashtra government at that time had alerted the Coast Guard and the Navy, this 2611 would not have happened at all.
And one of the details they had planned was to use these dhagas to mislead the investigative agencies.
All this was to be presented as a Hindu terror.
So it was a Pakistan operation. The LET was the front end.
As the attacks were on, it was clear that they were planned and launched from Pakistani territory.
For all of those victims of terror that was exported from Pakistan over the years, including but not limited to 2611.
This and more, streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
Bangalore traffic is an example of something that has gone wrong with our system.
We have more than 50 flyovers in Bangalore city. If flyover is a solution to traffic problem, Bangalore should not have traffic problem.
According to TomTom Traffic Index 2022, Bangalore is ranked as the second worst city in the world when it comes to traffic.
The speed limit at the ORR is 80 kilometers per hour, but our vehicle has only moved 10 kilometers per hour.
What Bangalore needs is a surgery, but what we have been offered repeatedly are band-aids.
Only on the world's first news OTT, News9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
Deepak has a question for Mr. Samad.
Sir, you were a young man in your teens during what was really a very horrific period in the history of your country. To have lived through that must have been an extraordinary feat in itself, and millions died. If I were to ask you to jog your memory a bit, I understand that this was a horrific experience and it may almost be traumatic to even think of it. But for the benefit of our viewers, if you could just, tell us what you saw at that crucial time.
Two things. That would not, I think it is very important. Number one, I am a genocide survivor. I was caught on the 26th of March, and I was supposed to be slaughtered. My two of my colleagues who were fighting this, of course the Mukti Bahini has not been formed. Two of my young colleagues, they have already been slaughtered. Slaughtered means just, their throats were cut off. I was the third person, but I was narrowly escaped. escape doesn't mean I didn't run. Somebody else had helped me to survive. So when I left that place, because I went to collect my mother as a rescue mission. I mean, my mother, my two brother, and my sisters to the safest place in Dhaka, which is the old city. And on the way, I have seen bodies lying on the street, and it was for some reason 25th and 26th night was little cold. So obviously it didn't rot, but the bodies were swollen. So that day was 27th. So I have seen people have died. I have seen people's bodies are lying on the streets of Dhaka. And unfortunately, most of the people that I saw, if my memory doesn't fail me, they were actually sleeping on the street, or they were hawkers. Hawkers means selling tea or this stuff. So obviously they always sleep next to the small, the table or the booth. So obviously they want to protect that. So I have seen most of them. The rickshaw pullers were slaughtered. I saw many rickshaws where the bodies were lying beside it. So obviously you can see it was a nightmare. And when I went close to the old city, in fact the city was almost vacant. Vacant means there was no people because of fear of, number one is of course the genocide, and secondly is that there was a curfew coming in the next 2 hours. So another thing is I was passing, my family was passing through a place called Tati Bazaar. So that is the place where most of the Hindus they're artisans, 100% artisans. So and that artisan was attacked, and people had already, all the artisans were killed. Most of the artisans killed. Whoever had escaped could escape. Crossing the river, river was just beside that place. So Tati Bazaar and Shakari Bazaar. Shaka is a band that the Hindu women after getting married wear it. So that was a place where there was massive slaughter.
My God.
And of course, yes. So that is one of the things that I have seen.
Right.
But I want to add to the previous question about the war criminals or the 195 war criminals. Can I add, if you allow?
Mr. Samad, I'm afraid we are totally out of time. We'll continue this discussion after the show, but thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us and reliving what is clearly a nightmare of the kind that South Asia probably hasn't seen in a very long time, and we can only hope that it's formally recognized for what it is. It was a genocide of unparalleled nature, at least in South Asia. And I would like to thank Brigadier Ponwar, the part of the liberation forces of 1971, and my friend Mr. Saleem Samad, one of the survivors of this horrific genocide. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. We'll keep coming back to you for news and updates on the News9 Plus Show. Now, Lawrence Bishnoi is India's most notorious gangster, except that he's already in prison, running his gang with impunity. Deepak, you have the story on Lawrence Bishnoi, prison no bar. Tell us how Bishnoi manages to run his gang from within Tihar jail.
It's almost incredible. This man has been in prison since 2015. When he was still a student leader, I believe he graduated from Punjab University in 2013.
So his entire life, 8 years he's been in prison.
He's been in prison.
And he's running one of India's biggest gangs.
In his own words, he went in as a student leader. He became the gangster that we all know from India.
In prison.
In prison. That's where he threatened Salman Khan.
Right.
That's where he orchestrated the killing of Sidhu Moosewala. And now the killing of the Sri Karni Sena chief.
In
Mr.
Rajasthan.
Bhogamudi,
right. Which is why we did the story. But, Deepak, one big question that comes to mind is that, gangsters normally do crime because it's not for ideological reasons. They do it for material benefit, right? They'd like to enjoy the proceeds of the crime. In Bishnoi's case, what does he gain from, running this gang? He's sitting in prison. How does he enjoy all the money that he's supposed to, extort and collect? I mean, is he doing it for some other reason beyond just the material purpose?
So, this is a very important question, and it brings to mind a very important facet of the Punjabi gangster / mafia, if I may call it that. So, unlike other crime organizations, say the
like
Italian
in
mafia,
Mumbai, right?
or the
where
Mumbai, the D
yes,
company.
Yes.
those people consider themselves businessmen first, and they use violence as a means to protect their turf or their interests. Now, that's not the case with the Punjabi mafia. In Punjab, it's reputation, the large life, living larger than life. It's that which comes as a priority. Money and fame, all of that comes later.
Okay.
So if you look at Bishnoi's case or the many other gangsters that have been in Punjab, all of them became gangsters first. They were in college, they got into brawls, cases multiplied, and they built a reputation as tough guys.
Right.
And it's only once that they garnered such a reputation that they ventured into, say, the business of crime.
Right. So it's a reputation thing, and it's not for material gain that they're running these gangs.
He's in prison, as we said.
Exactly. He's running this gang out of prison, and reputation. That has to be a very, very unique case. And in fact, you can watch Deepak's story, Prison No Bar, on the News9 Plus app. There have been a spate of recent deepfakes targeting Bollywood. First, Rashmika Mandanna, Kajol, and now Alia Bhatt. It's still early days and the technology is still developing, but we're calling it tarring the stars. And joining me is my colleague Justin Thomas, who's helped put this story together. Justin, how scared is the industry of this horrifying new trend of deepfakes?
They're completely scared, and right now, I don't think immediate solution is in place right now, because yes, there was morphing happening earlier, there were a lot of image changing, but now the generative AI tools that have come out have completely made you wonder whether what you're seeing is right, whether you're hearing what you're right.
Yes.
It completely removes all those steps and makes it looks really real.
Right.
So what has happened right now is that no regulations in place. They're still grappling. The authorities are still grappling. The IT companies, the social media giants are still trying to form rules. So amidst this, people, especially women, because most of those videos, about 90% of them are at least either sleaze or pornographic.
Yes.
So because of that, and let's say in a conservative country, like example from Pakistan, where a father and his uncle shot down a woman, 18-year-old woman, because some photo went on viral with some man, which the authorities later claimed that it was, deep fake.
Deep fake.
So, in a society where such challenges, conservative studies challenges are there, such videos coming out, so women are the prime targets in this situation.
Right. And what about the legislative part, Justin? There's been a lot of talk. The Prime Minister himself mentioned it recently. The IT Minister, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, spoke about it. How important is it for the government to step in now?
Because the idea is to be preventive than reactive. So US has come out with an executive order, Europe, EU has come out, India has also a few months back, just a month back, said that we are bringing in regulations, but they are still very slow in terms of what they're still to catch up with the technology that is already running haywire about it.
Right.
So yes, the system is slow, and right now the women are left to fend for themselves. And so if in the case of celebrities, obviously they have that kind of clout to help them out, but in a common person is completely caught off guard and
absolutely, common person completely caught off guard, and in this case celebrities. And to put a spin on that famous saying that a lie, or in this case a deep fake, has traveled halfway across the world before legislation has time to put its shoes on, and that seems to be the case where we are at today. But that's our story, Tarring the Stars. It's just dropped on the News9 Plus platform. You can download it and watch.
Seeing is believing, or is it? These are your favorite celebrities that you saw in the videos. But what if I told you that they are not? Welcome to the world of deepfakes. These celebrities were caught in the web of deepfakes. So what if I told you that you could be next?
Khalistan is back in the news. A spate of attacks on Indian missions and death threats made to Indian High Commission staff in Canada and the UK have spotlighted this issue we thought had gone away a long time ago. Now, in one instance, a Canada-based terrorist recently even threatened to attack Air India aircraft. Now, none of these threats can be taken lightly. And we only have to go back to 1985 to the horrific bombing of Air India 182, the aircraft called Emperor Kanishka, which killed all 329 persons on board. Let's watch this excerpt from our upcoming story, The Bombing of AI 182.
I'm Sanjay Lazar. I lost my entire family in the Air India 182 Kanishka. This is, the story of my life. I failed my 12th standard, and that happened in June of 1985. And we were all to go on a holiday to Toronto, and I got my results 2 days before our departure, and they wanted to cancel that trip. The shock and horror of me failing upset my family no end. My dad didn't want to go. My stepmom didn't want to go. I said, no, please go. And I'll submit my papers for evaluation and I'll stay behind. It's only 10 or 12 days. It's not that I'm a 3-year-old child or something like that. My dad was obviously the in-flight supervisor. He worked in Air India for 24 years before that, and he was operating that flight along with a lot of friends, and they were all taking their families along.
GPT. It can generate codes and human-like responses through text, write stories, and do a lot more.
I work in a newsroom with anchors, researchers and scriptwriters, graphic artists, producers, video editors, camera crew. But does a newsroom really need them today?
All of us have to think about unique and distinctive value addition that cannot be automated or repeated or replaced by a machine.
ChatGPT may kill many companies.
A human has to be in the loop with an ability to control this.
Dark Side of the Boom. Streaming now.
Since the last 2 years, Khalistani terror groups are threatening Indian diplomats in Canada, US, UK and Australia. Investigations of these threats led us to the first ever abduction and killing of an Indian diplomat, Ravindra Matre, in UK's Birmingham in 1984. Our months-long investigation finally led us to the murderer of Ravindra Matre, who has been hiding in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir for the last 40 years. Watch our exclusive documentary, Murder of an Indian Diplomat, where we reveal the man who killed Ravindra Matre.
Stop searching, start streaming. Download the world's first news OTT, News9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
BrahMos. Stealthy, lethal, precise. It flies at 3 times the speed of sound and cuts through a warship like a hot knife through butter. China's navy has threatened its neighbors, and they are turning to the BrahMos for protection. The Warship Killer. This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
It was my 14th birthday.
On birthday, daughter waits
home missing father.
He was carrying a cake for his daughter.
49-year-old Birmingham-based
Indian diplomat vanishes.
He was grabbed and bundled into a car by 4 assailants.
KLA claims responsibility. Demands Kashmiri separatists.
Maqbool Bhatt's release.
गोली मारो और फेंक दो.
And within 3 days, they shot him dead.
Abducted diplomat.
Found murdered in Leicestershire.
I said, who ordered to kill him? To me, he said, yes, I ordered it.
And he never came home.
Stop searching. Start streaming. Download the world's first news OTT. News9 Plus. Ahead of the curve.
The Vikrant and its fighter jets played a crucial role in the liberation of Bangladesh. The Vikrant attacked Pakistani forces and prevented their seaward escape. The aircraft carrier Vikrant was thus the Bangladesh Brahmastra. We'll leave you with this episode from our special series, Nerves of Steel. You can download the News9 Plus app from the App Store or the Play Store for more such thrilling stories. Thanks for watching.
On the 3rd of December 1971, Pakistan's dictator, General Yahya Khan launches a preemptive strike against Indian airfields. India declares war.
Pakistan launched a full-scale war against us.
The conflict is fought on 2 fronts, East and West. India plans to hold the Pakistani military in the West and advance in the East. East Pakistan is 1600 kilometers away from the Western Wing. It is connected only by air and sea. The air route is closed. In February 1971, an Indian Airlines flight is hijacked, taken to Lahore, Pakistan, and blown up. India responds by banning overflights by Pakistani aircraft. The sea is now Pakistan's only means of resupplying its eastern province. East Pakistan has multiple ports. General Yahya Khan can count on a fleet of merchant ships to bring in supplies. If the Indian army advances, these ships will evacuate soldiers from East Pakistan. Such a rescue has happened before. In 1940, Hitler invaded France. Great Britain rescued 300,000 French and British soldiers across the English Channel. It was called the Miracle of Dunkirk. 30 years later, Yahya's eastern commander, Lieutenant General Amir Abdullah Khan Niazi, is counting on such a miracle. But one force stands in General Niazi's way. The INS Vikrant. The Vikrant was brought from the United Kingdom in 1957. It was commissioned in 1961. It is Asia's only aircraft carrier. It can carry 23 aircrafts. The ship has not seen action in a decade, but that is about to change. On the night of 3rd December, a massive explosion rocks Vishakhapatnam. Pakistan's deadliest submarine, the PNS Ghazi, explodes and sinks, killing all 93 crew. The Ghazi is hunting for the Vikrant, but the carrier is not in Vishakhapatnam. Where is INS Vikrant? The Indian Navy has hidden the carrier in Port Cornwallis, in the North Andamans, over 1,000 kilometers away. Why did the Navy choose these islands, known for its beaches and infamous colonial era prison? Admiral Pasricha, former chief of the Western Naval Command, was a fighter pilot on the Vikrant in 1971.
Vikrant had a maximum speed of only 19 knots because one of her boilers was not okay, and therefore she was basically on 3 boilers. And the steam that was generated boilers was just about enough to not only move the ship but also for the catapult, which is the steam catapult.
The reduced speed makes the Vikrant vulnerable to submarines. So Navy Chief Admiral S.M. Nanda deploys the Vikrant to the east, far away from the Pakistani submarines. In the Bay of Bengal, the Vikrant forms the centerpiece of Rear Admiral Shri Harilal Sharma's Eastern Naval Fleet. Commodore Bhada, a Seahawk pilot, recalls the run-up to the war.
Sometime in the month of August that we had that Vikrant along with our escort ships had come into the Bay of Bengal and operating in the Bay of Bengal and working up, having established a temporary base at Madras initially. And that's when, if you recollect, Ghazi was chasing us around, and of course she met her own Waterloo. Towards the end of November that we moved into the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, we were at Port Cornwallis, which is one of the bays in North Andaman Islands.
On the 2nd of December, the Vikrant and the Eastern Fleet sail out of their hidden anchorage. Vice Admiral Sarma is on board the Vikrant. The captain of the Vikrant is Swaraj Prakash. Their target lies over 800 kilometers to the north. Captain Prakash's primary strike aircraft is the Seahawk. The Vikrant carries 8 of these single-seat fighter jets. On the morning of 4th December, the Vikrant begins turning into the wind. It launches 8 Seahawk fighter jets.
Left, steady, right, steady now, steady.
The Hawks bomb and strafe Cox's Bazar, East Pakistan's southernmost airfield. Later that day, the Seahawks carry out a first strike on Chittagong, East Pakistan's largest port. They attack the airfield and oil refinery using rockets and guns.
We were just waiting for this moment and had been training for it for months before this actual event took place. And the only thought, the thought which went through at least my mind was to get to the target and deliver those weapons load that we were carrying and return back after a successful attack. It was a low-level attack, a low-level approach, trying to avoid the enemy radar. And only at the point of contact with the target that we pulled up and went in for our attacks. That's when we actually saw it. It was the airfield we destroyed. The aim was to attack the airfield with 500-pound bombs to basically make craters into the runways so that it's rendered unusable. And then subsequent attacks which we carried out during that sortie itself was in attacking the control tower, the radar station, and there are other built-up areas like hangars, etc., with our front guns, and returned back to base after a successful attack.
On the 5th of December, the lack of wind and the Vikrant's reduced speed makes it difficult for it to launch fighter jets. Captain Prakash activates his backup plan. The Alizes of his Cobra squadron. The Alize is a versatile aircraft. It is built to hunt enemy submarines. It is armed with torpedoes, rockets, mines, and depth bombs. It is a slow-moving aircraft, but has tremendous range and endurance. The Vikrant carries 8 Alizes. It now unleashes them against East Pakistan. On the night of 5th December, Alizes are launched. This time, in pitch darkness. The night attacks strike terror in the enemy. Lieutenant Commander S. Ramsagar was senior pilot of the 310 squadron on the Vikrant.
As you get launched, you go into pitch darkness, you're flying on instruments, the navigator is on the cruiser.
His navigator is Lieutenant Bipin Bhagwat.
So, what we did was, in pitch dark night, we got launched about 4 aircraft, 2 sections each, 2 section of 2 each. In the 2 aircraft, in 1 aircraft, we carried Leaper's bomb, that is a flare bomb, which used to eliminate the target. So when you fire, we used to fly at about 5,000 or 8,000 feet, fire that bomb. It had a small parachute. It used to emit light of 40 million candle watt. And it used to illuminate the target area below.
East Pakistan has no fighter jets left to stop the Vikrant's aircraft, but it has anti-aircraft guns.
They had some Chinese shoulder-fired machine guns with a very high rate of fire, which they were using against the aircraft when we were in the dive. And during these dives, a number of our aircraft got hit with bullets. Fortunately, none of them hit at a place where it damaged the aircraft. And since most of the fuel that we carried was in the wings, it did not matter and we were able to go. But after the first few sorties, it became clear that we had to make sure that the dive was as short as possible and from as low an altitude that we pulled up so that the enemy guns, shoulder-fired guns, could not aim properly at us.
And there was a lot of anti-aircraft fire that we faced. We saw these bullets whizzing past us. Well, I was fortunate that I was not hit by any of these, and that's why I'm here to tell you the tale. But some of our aircraft were damaged.
By the 11th of December, the Indian Army is deep inside East Pakistan, bypassing General Niazi's strongholds. They head straight for the capital, Dhaka. It's only a matter of time before Dhaka falls. General Niazi now activates his Plan B. The Pakistan military readies a fleet of merchant ships. Many are given fake names and disguised identities to fool Indian forces. These ships can pull 30,000 people out of East Pakistan. On the 11th of December, Eastern Naval Commander Vice Admiral Neelkanta Krishnan signals his fleet from Vishakhapatnam. He outlines the most important mission of the war in the East: prevent the enemy from escaping. The Vikrant's aircraft now begin targeting Pakistani ships. On the 10th day of the war, Lieutenant Commander Ramsagar and Lieutenant Bhagwat take off in their Alize towards Chittagong.
The intelligence information had been received by Vikrant saying that Pakistani senior officers from the Navy are trying to escape by the sea routes. So it was necessary to stop that, and they decided to launch an aircraft to locate their ship. So we were launched. As we closed in, we saw that it was not an island, but it was a moving contact. And that moving contact was camouflaged with trees, branches of tree, and it was moving. As we closed in, I could see the shipside color from the camouflage vessel. So it was a Pakistani Navy gunboat. It had some other vessel in tow. As we came close, we found that gunboat was towing a small boat carrying a lot of material. Vikrant told us specifically, Lieutenant Commander Ops Vikrant came on the line and specifically told us to sink the ship, knowing fully well that we were not geared, we were not equipped for this kind of a role, and particularly when we are carrying only the anti-submarine weapons and sensors. But since the order had come, we decided to carry out a strike. We had rockets, they were all anti-submarine rockets. We climbed up and we took a position and carried out a rocket attack.
So I put all my rockets, 6 rockets, into a salvo, pulled up on top over him, went straight and dived and launched every one of them.
The boat in tow got hit and there was a small fire. We could see the boat was burning. When we turned around, we had no other option but to carry out an attack with depth charges. And as we came over the target, we dropped the depth charge. The ship used their anti-aircraft weapons and fired at us.
First round went between me, my leg, and the navigator's leg, between the two of us. But the point here is, we were so low, 20 mm gun, when it's fired, it needs explosion time to stop and explode. But there was nothing to stop. It entered and out through the thing. But I lost my hydraulic system. I lost my communication system. I could just fly the aircraft because my fuel tanks are in the wings. We are lucky all the bullets went past everything.
Lieutenant Commander Ram Sagar and Lieutenant Bipin Bhagwat have a narrow escape. Their aircraft safely returns to the Vikrant, but they have prevented Pakistani forces from escaping. In 2 weeks, the Vikrant's aircrafts destroyed 3 Pakistan Navy gunboats. They have sunk or disabled nearly a dozen merchant ships. The Eastern Fleet has captured 12 merchant ships attempting to flee East Pakistan. Her aircraft have flown 286 sorties, 123 by the Seahawks, 63 by the Alizas, and 100 by her helicopters. The aircraft have dropped a total of 151 500-pound bombs, fired 694 rockets, and dropped 22 depth charges on the enemy. The Vikrant Carrier Battle Group has cut off Pakistan's escape and enforced a blockade. On the 16th of December, the entire East Pakistani garrison surrenders. There is no miracle of Dunkirk. East Pakistan ceases to exist. A new nation of Bangladesh is born. Eastern Army Commander Lieutenant General Jagjit Singh Arora addresses personnel of the INS Vikrant after the operation. He says, Vikrant had reduced the task of the army threefold in the eastern sector. Vice Admiral Sarma recalls that moment exactly 50 years later.
Well, I'm reminded of Yahya Khan's statement to the press on the 16th of December to say that the capitulation of the Army of East Pakistan was not so precipitate or complete without the standing action of the Indian Navy.
A blockade that's made possible by the Bangladesh Brahmastra.
वर्ष 2070 तक भारत नेट जीरो का लक्ष्य हासिल करेगा.
There's certainly a wall of capital coming into the clean tech, climate tech space, not just in India but across the world.